The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates and does not necessarily reflect the views of this station or Forever Media Incorporated. Rick Jensen on 1150 AM, 1017 FM, WDEL.
Well, it should be, right? Yeah. I've been a client of Dan White's for many, many years. Very happy, always satisfied, knowing full well when finally they get sick and tired of me, say, beat it, pal. I know I'll have some savings left. Thanks to Dan, and amidst all the crazy things I've done, stock market and real estate and such. Dan Simon is a great guy. He works with Dan White in his office, Dan White and Associates, in the Middletown office. And it comes to the show today with something that the people are often asking when there is a presumption that interest rates will be increasing. And so it often brings the question, gosh, is a Roth IRA the right thing for me? Dan, thanks for being on. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, Rick. How are you today?
All right, thank you. So, how do you know if a Roth IRA is right for somebody?
Well, you mentioned interest rates, and in my opinion, I think it's taxes more than anything as to, whether a Roth makes sense now or potentially in the future. And, really the idea to kind of talk about this came up yesterday when I was meeting with a client of mine, and she mentioned that the company that she works for was encouraging her. Somebody has mentioned, you should utilize the Roth and this and that, and she just asked me, does this make sense for me? And I said, well, quite frankly, at this point, it really doesn't. Because now your income is going to be much higher than it is potentially in the future when you're retired. So that's really something that I think people need to take into consideration as to the contributions that you make to a Roth now, or even a conversion. And there's definitely a difference between the contribution and a conversion, but really needs to be taken into consideration of not only the time horizon to when you may draw on that account, because again, that income from a Roth IRA is coming out tax-free. So ideally, you want to contribute to those accounts when your income's lower and draw out of them, in a phase where you may potentially need the income to come out tax-free. So I don't necessarily think there's a one-size-fits-all answer, but in her case, it didn't make sense because her income is going to be substantially lower in the future, assuming that taxes are relatively the same. Now, I think most people are in the opinion that taxes will likely be higher in the future, but for someone in retirement, how much higher could they possibly be? That kind of remains to be seen at this point.
Well, Dan, have you seen a situation wherein somebody, maybe they inherited money in an inherited IRA, and then they have a lot of money saved up because maybe they got stock options and put in their 401k or whatever? Have you seen a situation wherein somebody says, okay, I'm retiring, it's after 67 years old, or whatever the cutoff is now, and they actually do have higher income than they did in the last 3 or 4 working years of their lives?
Absolutely. I've seen cases like that. I mean, people that, sadly are passing away nowadays, whether they're, 75, 85 years old. I mean, that's really one of the first generations that has retired with, these 401ks and IRAs. I mean, in the past, most people retired with the pension. They didn't have a whole lot of savings stocked away. So nowadays, someone who's maybe 60, 65 years old inherits, the IRA or 401k from mom or dad. Now that account does need to be emptied within a 10-year period of time. The new 10-year rule applies to inherited IRAs from non-spouse owners. So, that being said, yeah, I think that is going to be a consideration for a lot of people as to, what their income is going to look like after work. If they do need to draw from these accounts that they may potentially inherit from, from a family member.
Yeah, I forgot about that new rule. You got to drain the account in 10 years. And if you're lucky enough to get, like, say, $500,000 or something like that, okay, so that's $50,000 every year for 10 years, and you're taxed on that. Wow, and if it's $1 million, well then, God bless you for
income. And to think about it in a different context, Rick, you don't have to take out the $50,000 a year. I mean, if you waited 10 years because you said, hey, we're going to try to grow this bucket of money,
right?
And then comes the 10th year, and let's say you doubled your money in 10 years, which quite frankly isn't all that unreasonable. You now have to create $1 million taxable event, which obviously is going to have an impact on your other income sources, the taxability of Social Security, Medicare premiums, etc.
Oh, wow.
So there's really a trickle-down effect there.
That's right. It's a good thing you guys think about this stuff. I don't want to.
That's what we're here for.
I know, exactly. Right. It's like, oh, man, you got to calculate, how it affects your Medicare premiums and everything like that. I hadn't even thought of that. Sheesh. I'd say good.
With the Roth, though, I do encourage younger people, to get a Roth established because, again, younger, starting out a career, maybe, income's maybe a little bit lower, good time to contribute to the Roth. And, then you're giving it the benefit of time and compounding interest long term. That account grows and, you get into retirement and now you got a bucket of money that you can draw from tax-free, which is a huge advantage.
That's good stuff. But you have to take in consideration how much you're allowed to contribute if you have a 401k or something like that, don't you?
Correct. So, if you're a married couple and you're covered by a plan, the Roth contribution is limited for a married couple of up to $208,000 into a Roth IRA. So if, you're married filing jointly and the income's over $208,000, then, you're limited as to, what you can potentially put into a Roth. Now, what I will point out is from a conversion standpoint, there are no income limits. Essentially the IRS wants you to convert over an IRA when you're making as much money as you've ever made because you're going to pay more taxes on it.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen, some circumstances recently where, I've received calls from clients of ours who, said, hey, listen, company said we need to get vaccinated. It's against what I want to do. I'm going to be out of a job. My income's going to be low. What are we doing with our assets now? And, maybe that's a scenario where it makes sense to start looking at potentially converting over some of the, the pre-tax IRAs or 401ks into a Roth when the income's lower, allow those accounts to, grow and defer over the next few years. And again, it's, tax-free retirement income.
No, it's a good point. Every story is individual. Every story is different. You can't just say, oh, you're in this demographic, so you do this or that. So,
no true words have been spoken. That's for sure.
Well, I'd say I learned from you guys. Dan Simon with Dan White and Associates. You guys are in the brand new building there in Middletown now, aren't you?
We are. We moved in last week to we're in the Ketley Plaza building, 118 Sand Hill Drive, Suite 103. So still working on some final touches, but we're open and we're there. So that's the good news.
Nice. And then Dan's office is Glen Mills, just right over the border there, 202, going into Pennsylvania. And listen to On the Money Sunday morning at 7 a.m. I'll bet you have an idea what's on the program this Sunday, don't you?
Yeah, I know Dan and Andrew was on the show with him yesterday. Just recorded the show. And again, I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about, but I'm sure it's worth listening to.
Oh, it always is. Seriously, 7 o'clock in the morning on Sundays here on WDEL. It's called On the Money. A little coffee, a little knowledge, and it always helps you out. Dan Simon, Dan White and Associates. Thanks for being on, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, Rick, have a great day.
Okay, yeah, you too.